Welcome back, guys. Before we start today's video, we're going to look at a video that I failed and abandoned to try to make on some basic lawnmower maintenance. So let's look at about 20 seconds of that. So guys, as common sense would tell you, anything with an engine, any kind of piece of equipment, you want to keep the oil changed. You want to put a fresh spark plug in there from time to time. You want to replace the engine air filter, even clean it routinely. You want to put a fresh blade on the thing. And then of course you do the most important part on a Briggs & Stratton. You want to keep the valves adjusted. And then of course when it's all said and done, make sure it still runs and then rev it up for whatever reason. So that's that, plain and simple. Look for your own specific make and model on YouTube. I'm sure there's multiple videos. So let's get back to the shop. Where we left off, the shop was brand new. I hadn't done anything but bought a bunch of wood. That's behind us. We'll see that here in a minute. But before that, we'll hop inside and we'll see some of the results of what I've been doing in the meantime. I know it's been like 2 months, so you would expect me to have all the wiring done, the insulation done, the lighting installed, and I'll be moving tools in here. No. I have everything, but I've got all my usual excuses. As you can see, as I mentioned in my last video, I've been pretty busy. Most of the stuff in the house, in fact all the stuff in the house is done already, aside from the things I have to do after I move things, as in move the washer, dryer. Anyway, that's boring stuff. You don't need to be bothered with all that. But most of the household electrical is done. I have freed up the circuit at the meter box for the shop. And over here, I'll show you in a minute, I've got the wire I need to run a dedicated circuit from the meter box to the shop. So let's go take a look at that. This big thing, 125 foot of 6.3 UF direct burial rated. This is more than enough what we need. I'll be running just a 50 amp circuit to the shop. This is good enough to carry 55 amps, but we'll just run 50 for now. I'm critically aware of the amperages I need, the inrush currents, the draw, the regular current of what's going to be going on in that shop. So this is going to be plenty. It's extra heavy duty. It's really overkill, but it is all going to be code compliant, things like that. So it's actually going to be going from the meter box up the wall into the attic, out the other side of the house, down the wall, into 2-inch conduit, which the conduit is actually partially in the attic, and then under the slab into the shop. So all one solid piece, and that's going to be really easy and fun to do. And by the way, this was like $547 shipped to my door. So we're at that time of the year where it's a good 102 degrees most of the day. So I'm really looking forward to crawling around in the attic and up and down, back and forth, in and out of the house and the shop. And those of you that know already know. But let's go to something else. So guys, as you can see, a lot of this stuff is very old. Got these old school multi-breaker panels and stuff that we're still working. They stopped making these in like the 70s. But I found lots of little nonsense, like 30 amp breakers on 12 gauge wire. I'm not going to get into all the details, but of course it's all very old vintage stuff to the house. A lot of this fabric wrap wire, at least it is all copper still. Most of it's fairly pliable. So it's in pretty decent condition, surprisingly. I'm very fortunate that this house didn't have aluminum, because that's just, I'm not going to mention any more of that. But it doesn't look like a lot, but believe me, doing all this stuff individually, one by one, and rerunning new circuits. And now I'm not saying every bit of wire is new in the house. This was just the main branches, and I installed a new sub panel and a main panel off of the meter box, which has its own disconnects. So I'm not going to get into all that. Lots of little details and technical stuff. No one's real interested in that. That's not what this channel is about, but that's that. So guys, before I show you what I've been up to, you have to remember one thing, it's not done yet. Those of you that are more versed in woodworking, you're going to be pointing out all sorts of little things. Oh, you have to do this. I am well aware. I am not naive to working with wood and structural things. I did have a few challenges, which I'll get to in a minute. But again, the biggest thing I want you to take away is it's not done yet. This is really just the skeleton of what I'm doing in here. And it will make all the sense in the world when you see it. So let's see what I got. So guys, what is this? This is what's called a mezzanine. It's just an overhead storage unit for storage. Things you can't figure out what to do with, or even certain pieces of equipment, boxes and boxes, spare parts, you name it. It is tall enough and yet short enough where we can walk up there for the most part. But it's a freestanding structure designed to reclaim floor space. So this design gives me about 125 square feet of additional storage, which is great because everybody runs out of room for things. Silly things like I know I mentioned in the last video, taking the seats out of the project car. I can put them up here. It'll be a little heavy, but I can get them up there. Everything. From shelving, spare cylinder heads, spare transmissions. It will be strong enough to hold that kind of weight. It's about 80 inches from the bottom of this. This is pretty much standard door height. So 80 inches, and this is a 2x6, 2x4s, 2x6s. I did the 2x4 so I would have a little bit extra. We're less than 12 inches on center. It's going to be fine. I'm doing 3/4 plywood for flooring. This you might notice flexed down a little bit, but that's because the span on a 2x6, this is not Douglas fir, I forget what it is, but the span on a 2x6 is about 12 foot 6 inches maximum. This is just under 12 foot. I was supposed to measure, so I'd have it's like 11 feet so and so inches, but there's going to be a 2x8 as a fascia board that sits, that's going to be carriage bolted through this 4x4 and through this 2x6 all the way where it meets up to here. Like I said, I could go over all the little details and all the little specifications of this thing. But of course we're going to have a big nice carriage bolt. It's going to be painted. Everything's going to be completely tight. This thing's not going to move. It's barely even going to jiggle when it's all said and done, which is what you want. You want rigidity. You may notice this is non-pressure treated. It makes no difference to the weight capacity of a 4x4 in a vertical position. It's roughly 4,000 to 4,300 pounds. The ones around the edges are pressure treated because, yes, we're in a fully enclosed building that's up off the ground quite a bit, but still those are towards the outside wall. I mentioned I had some challenges with this. So one of the biggest challenges was, okay, every piece I picked up from Home Depot. I didn't buy all at once. I made specific trips to only get what I would need to what I can get done on the weekend. So every piece was hand-picked and I made sure everything was straight and true to the best of my ability. And then I brought it home and sat in here. Everything would start to warp because you built this humidity here, and these are pressure treated, so there's a lot of moisture. They're mostly dry now. But the old piece I had in place of this kind of this is flat on the ground. So I was fighting this with almost all of these pieces. I would have everything cut. Everything would be perfectly set in position. You can see I'm using these little, I'm using these 4x4 Simpson post bases, which of course I'll be anchoring these into the ground. The problem is the concrete floor, even though yes, it was feathered and all that and it's nice to finish, it's not perfectly flat in every spot. So, you know, okay, I'm trying to get these posts to stand vertically and be level. You know, I'm doing that right here. And okay, let's put it in the corner. Well, you put it in the corner over there, and it's not even wanting to stand up on its own because I guess the concrete's not that far off, but you know, it's a huge difference when you're trying to cut and try to cheat a little to get everything to be straight and true. Because it's not going to move once everything's bolted to it. But you can see one of my biggest challenges. I did make an attempt to repair this, but this is a very good example of what I was dealing with trying to build this thing. Very frustrating. As I've already mentioned, when you have things cut and mocked up, and then you take it all apart and set it to the side for whatever reason, and you go back to reassembly, and it's way out of whack. Very irritating. All right, guys, let's go ahead and start at the center post in the rear. You can see I've got my bracing. So part of this design, no part of this freestanding structure, the mezzanine, is touching the metal outer structure. It's completely freestanding. So all of my extra supports and braces, a lot of this you can't see. I've got big lag screws. These are just 4-inch deck screws, but I've got larger ones holding everything together. I still have to put these in. That's not a big deal. I'll just use some truss screws for that. But you can see this center 4x4 is flush with the bottom railing. But you see this one, by design, is kicked out about the same width of a 2x6. So you see the outer 2x6 is on the outside of the 4x4. And again, I know you're thinking, oh, there's only 2 bolts holding this. No, everything is completely secured in itself, to itself. There's heavy duty lag bolts. There's 3 of them going into the 4x4. Plus we have this support. Everything is screwed together. Fairly overkill, I promise. It's just a lot of stuff you can't see. You can see an example. These are some of the lag bolts I was using. Actually, I'm not sure they're really called lag bolts anymore. They're just heavy duty wood fasteners. I have these kind of in an offset pattern. That one's covered up. Holding all this together, holding these 2 2x6s together. But anyway, the point of this, so you see how you have your 2 2x6s, and it's offset of the 4x4 to take up this gap. And that's so I have a nice flush area. I can push my toolbox or my workbench up against the wall. Again, we're dealing with an 80-inch height. But now if you look over here, those same 2x6s are now centered to that 4x4. And we're up against the wall. And I mirrored that design on this side, but as you can see, our 2x8 is going to go in that groove, and then of course in this groove. Now, intersecting joiners, you're supposed to overlap them, but because of the design of this, because I want more structural integrity, there's a reason I'm not going to put the center of a 14-foot 2x8 right here. The 2 2x8s are going to be cut to end right here. And then I will have another board connecting them on the outside. And it's going to actually come down to here. I'm actually going to use a triangular piece. I'll probably use 2 sheets of 3/4 plywood and build a very large brace out of dual 3/4 inch plywood sheets in a triangular pattern. And I'll recess this, and of course once the 2x8's in place. My best way to describe this is it will make sense when it's done. I constantly have to say that, but that's my best way of describing it. Well, you can see on the back side, it's kind of similar to what I'm talking about as far as the bracing on the back side. But you can see this is reset. These are recessed, and nothing is touching the building. These are recessed in this part of the wall, so nothing is protruding. I mean, that significantly anyway. Like I said, this has been a very tediously thought out design. Even these, everything is inside the recess. Nothing is touching the building. These are even notched On the back side, you really can't tell. Sorry for the camera work, I'm losing light again, but. So anyway guys, this is what I've been up to. I've got quite a bit more to do. As I've already mentioned, this thing will make perfect sense and look pretty awesome when it's done. I'm going to go as far as paint. The carriage bolts are going to have nice chrome heads on. It's going to look pretty nice. The thing is going to look and be very heavy duty. Well guys, I'm about out of light. As you saw, I've got the cable I need to run electricity out here. The next step, of course, once this is done, will be electricity and then lighting. I will probably do insulation last. Just out of convenience of already having electricity and lighting in here, then I'll do that. You think I would do that first so I could work on this thing and not have to constantly run extension cords. I don't know, it was just easier to build this without anything in the way. Because once the electrical's in, I don't know exactly where all my outlets are going to be yet, because obviously that's going to be a work in process. Things are moving along slowly. I'm critically aware of that, believe me. My goal, once this is all said and done, which is unfortunately, because I'm a bit OCD, I don't know exactly when that's going to be. The point of that is I would like to make I'd like to be able to do at least a video a week, because we do have the Galaxy. A few more things to do on the Audi, but in the meantime, obviously I want to get another flip car. I've already got a truck trailer, the shop is done. I've got all the tools and equipment I need. I have the quick jacks. We can do a lift later. But we still got to talk about the carport, which may or may not happen in the time frame I've mentioned before, because I'm looking at some conveniently expensive pieces of equipment that would pretty much take up that cost. But these are things I really want, and you'll understand if that happens, if we get to that point. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. But it will definitely take the name of this channel, being Custom Fab, to the next level. But hopefully the next video will have a little bit more progress. Sorry for the delay on everything. I do have one more excuse. I do have a family member living with me now. They sold their house where they lived to move closer to me, and now they're actually closing on their house in like 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks or so, on top of the 2 months of absence, I've been a little bit more busier than usual, but again, I've got loads of excuses, but I'm glad you all stick around. Thank you everyone that likes, subscribe, whatever, or even just like watching my videos. But I hope in some way I can help motivate you, because like I said, it's taken me a long time to get to where I'm at. And I know there's some of you that are stuck in an apartment right now that this is all you want to do. I was right there 10 years ago. And I hope you get there a lot quicker than I did. But have a good one, guys. I'll see you on the next one. This is pretty much standard door height. So 80 inches, and this is a 2x6, 2x4s, 2x6s.